Oh, he is
This
so
is insane.
precise.
If you want to know just how good this endgame move is, then check out the reaction of the chat on screen here. They're going into nuclear meltdown, overload here. The commentators are freaking. It's one of the greatest games of the Speed Chess Championship 2022. We're rewinding to that final, a classic between Magnus Carlsen and Hikaru Nakamura, not only for this god move in the end game, but the whole concept around it, the build-up, the time situation, and the masterpiece of a tactical game that led us to that point. We're diving right in here. Magnus is white, he's trailing in the match. What can he do? Well, he kicks off with d4. Clock time's on the left there. This is speed chess and they're down on time from the start. So Hikaru develops a couple pieces. It's symmetrical, and then a3. Magnus already dabbling in the opening, not fighting for the center like you should do here, but we soon go down a theoretical line. Magnus develops, c5, strikes at the center, e3, bishop d6, and Magnus now takes here. So he's inviting Hikaru to shatter his structure, pawn recaptures, but then he's a pawn up, Hikaru's got to win it back. Different game, right? Hikaru just recaptures the pawn. Magnus strikes back. The Empire strikes back. The force is strong with this one. We get castles. Knight c3. Knight c6 in response. And both players activate the ladies here. Now hang on a minute. Can't white go b4, fork these two pieces, be winning the game? Well, no. Knight takes or bishop takes, and you've got a problem with this rook, drops off the board, right? So here, Carlsen goes rook d1, and now this next move looks weird if you don't know the position. Rook e8 played. I mean, aren't you just staring at your own pawn? Can't white now go b4, win that piece? There's no pin on the rook. Well, this time, this is the new problem. You get two pawns for the piece, sorry, and look at the pressure on this knight, pinned to the king. Knight e4 is coming, so black wins back the piece by force and with a great game here. Let's return to the real life action. So no b4 played. Magnus goes bishop d3, carries on developing, and Hikaru reveals the point of rook e8 by pushing this pawn to e5 here. This bishop is hit. This one is threatened. What's the response from Magnus? Well, he takes on d5. The game's exploding. It's crazier than Peter Lecko's dance moves on a Saturday night. Look at him go there. This was the finale of the freestyle chess goat challenge in Germany. What a legend. He's got the moves on the board and off the board. Great clip from Chess Base India. Now what to play here? Well, if black takes this piece, white takes this piece. This is the point. Now it goes nuts because black rips open the king, but then white wins a piece. This is the kind of craziness that could have ensued. But okay, it didn't. We'll stick with the game. Knight d4 played by Hikaru, coming away from the attack, hitting the queen, hitting the knight. Takes is basically forced. You know, you can't live with that knight there. But now Hikaru wins back his piece with check. This is his point. Magnus blocks the file there, and now this bishop retreats all the way home. Magnus is a pawn up, but after castles, Hikaru instantly restores the material balance. The knights come off, the queen comes off, but now bishop c4. After the queen slides, queen b3, pressure on f7, and a running d-pawn. Magnus is better, but now watch how Hikaru fights his way back into the game. Two titans here. So we get bishop g4, developing, leaving this one on prise to be taken by the queen, but look at the pressure here. What does Magnus play? We'll see if you can guess, because he comes up with the best move, but it is so far from obvious here. Such a beautiful concept. He plays the excellent best move, knight to e5. Hang on a minute, is that not impossible because you're hanging a rook and hitting the queen? Well, no. You take on f7 with check. This is the key. It's a Zwischenzug, right? An in-between move. And after this king moves away, well, then you take the rook here and you're hitting queen, you're hitting rook, you're going to win back your exchange, and you've now exposed the king. White is doing well. So we don't see takes. Instead, rook takes on e5, giving an exchange for the moment. Yes, Magnus takes, but then you instantly win it right back. This is the order to execute the combination in. Rook recaptures. The queen is holding that rook. And this is just superb from Hikaru. I mean, this pawn's under fire, right? Although the queen's got to stay with the rook. But what does Hikaru do to come up with a problem plan to solve that attack? That didn't make sense. He goes pawn b5 here. What a move. And look at Magnus's clock. 2 minutes 40. He now burns through a minute and a half. Because he's thinking, do I take here with check? There's a whole line that goes then with e6 and the pawn running down. And rook d7. Crazy stuff. Does he take the pawn? Well, that's definitely not good. Or rook b8 comes. Yes, you go here to break the pin, but then black can do this, win an unprotected rook. So much to calculate. Eventually Magnus does this. It is a great move. He retains advantage, but the game's kicking off. So rook b8 from Hikaru. Covers this pawn, stays on a dark square as well, which is important. No tactical problems. And now Magnus just goes h3, little pawn push. He could have gone rook e1 to defend this pawn. But he's saying, okay, you take me, I'll take on f7. It is playable for black, but Hikaru doesn't go for it. He goes bishop c5, activating. Rook c1, hits the bishop, it drops back. And now Magnus wins a pawn and Hikaru blunders. He should go g6 here as a top move. Give his queen some cover. There's other ideas too. But he plays h6 and this is a problem. Magnus has a winning shot here but misses it. Again, if you want to pause, test your tactical skills. Go for it. And you've probably found it, knowing there's a puzzle in the air. It's the excellent move of pawn e6. An obvious one, but a good one. Because if captures that you want to play, then there's check and you're picking up the queen here. This is the big problem. If you don't capture, well then there's a threat to take here. If f6, you do this and you're checking and the pawn's running really fast. Bishop c6 to support it soon. Game over. Magnus misses it though. He goes king f1, and this has got to be the whole most Magnus concept you've ever seen. Because king h8 played, and now we get queen e2. Magnus trading the queens off the board, so classic of his style. Queen captures with check, king recaptures, bishop d4. He's given a pawn here, but it's to get these two running on the queen side. So Hikaru takes this central pawn. If you go bishop b2, by the way, never explored this one. Okay, rook c7. Yes, black wins this pawn, but then you take here. The e pawn's running really fast. So okay, Hikaru takes the e5 pawn. Rook c4, now responding to the threat of bishop b2. Rook c6 was also possible. You'll see why I say that in a moment. Because after king g8, king d3, both players running in the kings. Well, now Magnus wants to carry on the advance, but the rook's in the way. So now he goes rook c6. He's lost the tempo, but still in the driver's seat. Rook d8 hits the bishop. King c4. Now we get rook d7, defending the 7th rank. Rook a6 played. King e7 and Magnus just rearranging the pieces here. What a bind he's got set up. And watch this style from Hikaru. They're both so good at looking for counter shots. f3. That was a miserable pawn, limiting the bishop's scope, so Hikaru chucks it. You can't take with the bishop, of course. There's a pin to the king. The pawns are doubled. What's the big idea? Well, the bishop comes round. The king comes back just in time to cover the f2 pawn. Great play by Hikaru. They're both on seconds here. We get king d6 marching in. a4, king c5, f4 from Magnus, and after bishop h2, king f3 covering the pawn, Hikaru goes g5, again trying to open the scope of his bishop, so f5 from Magnus, and things are hotting up here. h5, best move to stop the king march, but missed. f6 played, and now watch this king slide on into Hikaru's DMs. Bishop e5 played, and here comes that king. It's going pawn hunting. Bishop d4, now f3, covering the pawn that was attacked. King b4 played, and Magnus picks up the h pawn. He's now 1 pawn ahead? 2 pawns ahead. even though 2 of them are doubled. This is tough for Hikaru. Rook c8, king g6, rook h8, going after this one. But now watch this from Magnus, using both sides of the board. It's his canvas, he's Picasso. This rook now comes back to b8. This was a huge threat, the pawn running if you took this one. So here b6 played by Magnus. Why is he playing it anyway, giving up a pawn? What is this all about? Well, he's decoyed the bishop. He now takes on f6. Look how dangerous this pawn is. The king went this way, then it came all the way this way, then this way. I mean, what an expert Magnus is in the endgame. We get bishop d4 check, king f7 to stop this rook coming here. Now we see rook h8, going for the pawn, f6 played, the pawn drops, and this is just superb from Magnus. He checks from a4, the king goes, and what does he do? He just sees this entire thing to the end, right? Imagine you've got white, about 3 seconds on the clock. How do you win the game? What do you do here? Well, he plays the excellent, rook takes on d4, giving up the exchange, then going king g7 to run the pawn. But there's this fine, minute detail here in the position. Because after rook h4, what would you do here to win the game? There's only one concept that does it. Your time's ticking. You've got 3 seconds, right? 2, 1. There, your time's done. You lost on time if you didn't make a decision. How many of us are going like this, right? f7. You just drew the game. It doesn't work. Because rook f4 played, yes, you make a queen, but then the rook takes, king takes, and this king starts marching in. No time to bring the bishop here, or the f-pawn drops. So say you run with your king, but then the king comes, now the king comes, and you push the pawn, liquidate, that's a draw. White doesn't have the material. So what does Magnus do? He comes up with this god endgame move of bishop to d7. What a move, because after rook f4, now you still don't push the pawn unless you want to draw. Then the rook can take here and then take here. So instead you go bishop g4, the king marches, but now the pawn pushes and Hikaru resigns the game. This is where we get the reaction of the commentators.
Oh, he is
This
so
is insane.
precise.
And this was necessary because Hikaru would have otherwise given up the rook and traded the last pair of pawns.
It's just awesome. Why resigns? Well, now, sorry, whose move is it? Black. Yeah, what to do? You can wait with the rook. White makes the queen, and now there's a problem. This is glued together. The white king is going to come, munch the pawn, and then this one runs through, makes a queen. Really incredible stuff from Magnus Carlsen. If you enjoyed this one, smash subscribe to never miss a future video, and check out the video on screen for another classic Magnus Hikaru clash. Thanks a lot for watching, and see you soon.